Eric here with Steffen Outdoors. Today I'm going to talk to you about food plots, keeping deer on your property, and apple trees. The real focus is going to be on the apple trees near the food plots and why I put them where I did. Now this particular little bunch is the first group of trees that we put out. They're pretty close to the house. This little shed wasn't here when we put them in. And well, let's face it, nothing better than a fresh apple pie with apples fresh off the tree. There's not a whole lot of apples left on these anymore. Most of them have fallen to the ground and the deer have been cleaning them up, so gives them a little snack, an excuse to swing through here on the way to farm field or wherever they happen to be going. This is the drain field from my house. Got a few apple trees here too, but we tried to keep clover in here. We're gonna have to replant this in the spring. Clover and alfalfa will go right here. Here's the next patch of apple trees I want to take a look at. There's a group right here. And you see there's some pine trees here and a little bit of a field off to this side. And then the field off to this side. Now, we've got a nice food plot in here. This is our frost-seeded food plot. The deer browse through here, hang around 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes on their way to some corn, off in this direction and off in this direction. But this just gives them a chance to slow down, and in some cases they might detour and come over by us, hang around a little longer. Now, over to this side is cedar swamp. So the deer get down in that swamp, they come out of there in the evening, and what they used to do is walk right across this field. So instead of walking across this field, we've got these apple trees in here behind me. We've got this food plot here. Gives them a chance to hang around, gives us a little more opportunity to watch them and see what they're doing. The deer are coming through here, and here's a little ground scrape that opened up in the last couple of days. All along the edge you can see that's just regular field grass. This whole little field used to be all set aside. We planted all these pines. There's a little 4-acre cornfield on the other side. Pines down the end here were all planted as well. All this was just set aside field. It would take about a minute and a half for those deer to cut through here. Well, in our food plot we've got clover, chicory, alfalfa, it's doing pretty well, but the deer are really hitting it, so not much there anymore. So basically what we've got here is we've got a spot where we've got a number of apple trees, as you can see. Looks like I've got about 16 of them here, all different varieties. We've got yellow, we've got Macintosh, got some Granny Smith down the end. So the deer will come up out of the cedar swamp over this way. And they used to stand on that end for a minute or two and walk across this field in a minute and they're gone. Well, now they browse around, grab an apple, grab some clover, and hang around for a bit. Gives us more opportunity to watch them, more opportunity for them to walk into range where we might have a shot opportunity. Now in the last 2 weeks, we sat over this plot a couple of times. We've watched the deer eating apples off the trees, moseying through the food plot there, and the does have been coming out in groups of 6 and 7. So we're seeing 10, 12 deer in this little plot in a single hunt in the evening. Again, there's a little better look down into the cedar swamp. We have a little trail going down in there. A lot of bedding area down in there right alongside this plot. So it's a nice intermediate area to get those deer to hang around, and they really enjoy having a sweet apple to chew on the way to some of their other food sources, the corn and the soybeans off behind us. In this spot we just have a few trees. They're not real big yet. We're out on the edge of a field here. You can see the corn in the background. Got some soybeans off, planted right over this way. So why do we plant these trees here? Well, right back here, 10 or 15 yards inside the woods, there's a trail that meanders through all the way down the whole length of the woods here. And the deer will come through here quite often in the evening, and they hesitate about coming out. And sometimes they wait basically until the shooting light is over with, and you don't really get a chance to have them come past your stand. They just don't come out early enough. And so we put these trees in here as a way to kind of encourage them to come through a little bit earlier. Maybe you'll get a shot when you're back inside the woods. And it's not too far from the house either. So in the summertime you can watch them just right out the window and enjoy them walking around out here. So even though they're not real big yet, a little trail right inside the woods here, they'll start drawing those deer out of there as they get bigger. And these need to be pruned. We'll take care of that the next few months. Now this next little patch is kind of interesting. There's a lot of different things going on right here. I'll try to explain it the best I can. Hopefully it makes sense. So we've got a shallow pond here. It's a wetland scrape. It's only about 4 feet deep. So the deer are either going to go around it on one end or the other. And you can see there's a little trail right here down on the west end of this pond. Now we plant food plots over here, and this year was really tough because it was so wet. Have some soybeans in the distance, but didn't get a whole lot in here. We tried putting some turnips and sugar beets, but unfortunately about 3 or 4 weeks ago I heard we were 19 inches ahead of the yearly average rainfall. So yeah, everything's pretty wet, so that didn't work out so good. Not like it should have. But anyway, so we also have this line of pine trees here that we planted. And the reason we put those there was because when they're coming around the back side of this pond, if you notice that open field, there's really nothing to hide them, okay? It's all that open field. And so I said, you know what, they're going to feel comfortable walking through here by having all these pine trees here. And then right on the end we put some apple trees. And again, these apple trees being right here, it gives them a destination. It gives them a place to stop off and get a little snack, a little sweet treat, if you will, on the way to either to the corn, cross over the fence line over in the back, or a little bit of soybeans we got sitting right here. The other nice thing about these apples, if I'm going out to my stand, I can reach up and grab one and I got myself a good snack. Now in this particular spot we've got some turnips, sugar beets, kale, rapeseed, other brassicas, and we got some more planted pines in the back. We planted all of those back in 2005. They've grown up quite tall. Not really big enough to put a stand in yet, but all along here we got some things for the deer to chew on. It didn't grow as good as we wanted it to, again being so wet that got it in a little bit late and it just wouldn't stop raining. But you can see they're definitely eating it. A lot of the tops of these leaves are missing, so that's a good thing. We have a little stand put up right here, kind of overlooking it, and hopefully they browse their way through, give us an opportunity. And we have a small patch of soybeans next to that. Same thing, it gives them a variety to eat, right? They can chew on those brassicas, get a little sweetness, grab an apple farther back, stop and get some nice protein with the soybeans, and then there's a little bit more of the brassicas over in here. Quite a bit of grass in this one, but it'll be better next year if we get a little drier season. Down the end, we got a few more apple trees. This is the 5th spot where we've got apple trees planted, and I think we're going to put a few more in here. But they're starting to get a little bigger. Apples are pretty much gone off them. But the deer would come out to the edge of the woods here, and they didn't like to come out because all of this was open. It was open, set aside. There were no farm crops planted anywhere. And it was open to the cornfield back behind. So this line of trees, this was all planted by us as well. A little bit later, but we get deer walking around in the daylight now. I can come out here in August, September, October and find deer nibbling on things right in the middle of the day, noon, 1 o'clock, doesn't matter. They come out and just kind of calms them down. Over here we just have 4 apple trees and 2 really small plum trees. And we just started with 4. I'm planning to put in more. Why did I put these over here? Well, several reasons, of course, just like the rest. So back here behind me, we own this property too. There's a small pond back here. And the deer tend to come around this side of the pond, come up into the cornfield, but they tend to come out late because we've got a farm over here behind me on this side, house is over on the other side, and they just don't like coming out that early. So we do have some trees that block the house, so you can't see that real well, and we thought by getting a few trees out here might encourage the deer to come out during daylight, because there are some nice stand spots just back here in the woods. We just need to get the deer to come out a little bit earlier. So a little sweet tasty treat on the way to the cornfield, or maybe they'll swing down, grab some clover or some soybeans down that direction. So at the end of the day, my bottom line is put apple trees, put fruit trees in next to your food plots, whether you've got soybeans out there, or clover and alfalfa out there, or sugar beets, turnips, that kind of thing. Just gives them something else to chew on. It gives them another excuse to stay in the area longer. When I see deer walking through the woods, they're always browsing around on everything they can find. They'll chew on a briar bush, and then they'll chew on a raspberry bush, and then they'll eat a fresh maple leaf, or then they'll find a piece of clover to chew on. So if I give them a little bit more of what they're hungry for that day, they're just going to stay around longer, giving me more opportunities. So food plot isn't a food plot around my house unless it's got apple trees nearby. We're looking at planting probably another 10 or 12 trees next year, just to kind of expand what we already have, and we'll see what happens from there. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to see content on, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.